Welcome back. This is another tile game lesson. We're going to begin lesson 5. So what we're going to do is take our lesson 4 folder and just copy and paste it right here. Again, I'll remind you we're doing this so that you can go back at any time because different one of these snapshots in our development cycle could be branched off into totally different types of games, as varied as checkers, putt, golf, or whatever. So I want to make sure you have that so you can go back to it. Well, what we're going to do today is in our lesson 5 folder, we're going to create a map. Instead of trying to create the map through the code, like using for loops that we've done so far, we're going to draw our map using characters. And I think that's going to really aid in our map development and making it easier to make and making it uh, more exciting, more interesting. So let's take a look at that. So currently, our load walls has basically just, a couple of for loops where we have kind of just through guess and test created some walls. And if we run this, we'll see that, we were able to create a couple. They do work. We can't run through them, which is nice. But what I want to do is be able to design walls to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and open my other folders now. I need to make sure that I'm in the proper folder. So go to lesson 5 and open your other two modules. So we have main, settings, and sprites. Make sure that they say lesson 5 at the top so you're not making edits to the old ones. And we're going to create a new file. And this is actually going to be a text file. So let's file save as. And we're going to save it as a text file called map. And what I want to do is create a dot to represent each cell in our screen. Or I like to say cell sometimes instead of tile, cell tile. So each tile, I'm going to try and say that since that's what I've been calling this, a tile game. Well, our screen height is 20 and our width is 32. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 32 little dots. Check that again. 32 is the width. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, I think that's 32. That's because I have a counter at the top of the screen that says 1:2. So that means, here to the left of this means 32. So there we go. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it for now. Nope. Until I get to row number 20. So there's our world right as it stands. Now what I'm going to use is the digit 1 to represent walls. So I'm actually going to just change this whole thing into a wall. And then I'll just make that wall like that. And then we can cut and paste this on top. And I know I just went through and copy and pasted all this, but I'm just kind of showing the way this develops. So I'm going to go through and do it again. And I can do maybe 4 at a time. Okay, so now we've got that designed, and we're just going to make kind of a simple little map here. Where you should, make your own, make it something interesting, make it something that will be fun to play. I'm just going to put some random things here. maybe another wall up here. Another wall here. Okay, how about one right there? And I'm also going to position my player, and I'm going to call my player P, and I'll just put that right there. So we've got walls with the number 1, and it looks like we're actually short a wall, short a row. So let me go in and add that. I kind of felt like I should have had one more row here. That looks better. Now I can make these maybe go down one more. Okay. I think I like that. And P for player, 1 for wall. So we'll save our map.txt, and now all we got to do is load it. So currently we have in our init, we create a clock, a player, a wall group, a sprite group, but we call the load walls, but we don't have any way for us to load the text yet. So I don't think I need this code anymore. You feel free to comment that out. To comment out, you can just manually draw put in the pound signs. Alt-3 is the shortcut, or you can go up here and select it. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And what I want to do is I want to create some text from the data file, and then I'll use that text to create my image. But we need to go over a few different things. The first thing we need to go over is how to read a text file. So we're going to do that first. So to read a file, we're going to need to be able to access and load files within our folders, or what are called directories. And so that how you access a file varies from operating system to operating system. Specifically, some operating systems have forward slashes between their directories. Others have these kind of slashes, and Python supplies us with a module called OS, which gives us access to the operating system that our user is using, and we can do it from that module so that we don't have to guess and make our program only work with Windows or only work with Linux. We can make it work with everything. That's part of what makes Python so nice. So currently we're importing Pygame and sprites. I want to import OS. So to your operating system, to your import statements, add OS for operating systems. And let's start by just looking at our current directory. So I'm going to make a folder. Actually, we'll make it here in our init. Let's go ahead and make self.game directory. And that game directory we can find with os.path.dir name for directory name. And whenever you run a file in Python, it gets the name main. Or whenever you code in a file or import a file, that gets the name _file. So you've probably seen _main. Here's _file, which means this particular module that we're reading in right now. So in my load walls, what I want to do right now is just print out the file so we can see that we're getting it. So first thing I need to do is get the file name, which is map.txt. So I'm going to add that to our current directory name. So I'm going to say, let's see, map file is equal to, and what we do is os.path.join, and what this does is joins any file path to another path or another file name. So I'm going to take our self.game directory, and I'm going to join map.txt because that's the name of our file. Now, most likely this actually would not be a necessary step right now because our game directory and our map are in the same folder. But as we move our map folder. We're going to be moving our maps to a maps folder and things like that. This is good practice, and it might become necessary even without doing it. So it's just a good practice when you're loading a file to go through these steps. So I've got os.path.directory name for my file, and I'm in the same directory. I have my map.txt file, so I have just a local variable called map file that is the joining of game directory and map text. Now we could actually look at that. You know, the self.game directory, if you print it, it's really just kind of a blank path. Here you can see it's just map.txt. So the os path.join didn't really add anything right now, but that's okay. What I want to do is use with open. And what are we opening? We're going to be opening our map file. And you need to tell it whether it's a file that you're going to write to or read from. So we'll do R for read from as F. So this is kind of a different kind of code than you may be used to. This is just kind of the standard, and I don't want to go too much into the with command right now. You can check it out, Google it, look at the Python documentation. But essentially, we're going to be taking the file, map file, and renaming it F and opening it up. So F is the map file. And the typical way that we read files, text files in Python is to do something like this. So the text file is iterable. And so we can iterate through, it's going to iterate through a line at a time. So I'm just going to say print line. Okay, so this should come out as each line one at a time is going to be printed. Now, what do you notice here when I print? You'll see that there's an issue. There's actually a blank line being printed in between my text file. And the reason why is every time I hit enter, that's actually a character. It's typed in like this, /n for new line. The character to make that, you know, not all appear on one line when you read a file, it's coming in when I scan it, which is causing a bit of an issue. The reason why it's causing an issue is because when I print, the default command for the end of a print statement is the new line character. I could change that and make it not print a new line, but then I'm going to have issues when I'm trying to use the data. So the way that we usually do this is we strip it. And that's not that's a nice little string method that is included in Python. And this just takes away any leading or trailing white space. And we can do it, you know, it's not a permanent command. As soon as I call line again, that it'll still be the original, unless I say something like line equals line.strip, something like that. That would make it permanent. But for now, let's just print it like so. And we should see now that the walls don't have that extra space in it. Okay, so we are successfully using the open command. Remember, to open a file, we want to use with open as F. And then we can loop through with this for line in F. Well, what I want to do is I want to add this to a list called wall text. So I'm going to make a list called wall text, and we'll start with it empty. And instead of printing, I'm going to append it. So I'm just going to append line.strip. And this is going to allow me to enumerate. Now, enumerating is pretty interesting stuff. So let's take a look at that and talk about enumeration. So I'm going to make a list here, and I'll call the list in, and I'm going to put in A, B, C, D, E, and F. So lists have a lot of different things that we can do. We can get the length of a list, of course, is one of them. We can access specific elements in the list in bracket 0. is A, whereas in bracket 3 would be 0, 1, 2, 3 should be a D. And we can also iterate through a list. We can say something like for some number K in print K. And let me make that so it doesn't go to a new line. And you can see how I just kind of went through each one of the elements. Well, what I want to do is enumerate in. So I'm going to say for K in enumerate in. And I will print the K again, and let's see what happens here. Well, you'll notice what happened is that we did a pairing. We paired the index of the item with what is the item object itself. So we kind of made a mapping from the whole numbers that represent the indices. So we map the index to the item at that index in the list. And this is going to be really useful to us because when we look at our map text, we just made a list out of each one of these different we just made a string out of each one of these different rows, and we're going to use that index that it appears at as its x coordinate, and the row that we're on is going to be enumerated as our y coordinate for where we're going to be putting it on the screen. So this is going to work out perfectly for us. So back to our loading walls method here. So, oh, you know what? Actually, let me show you one more thing. So that's a pretty cool way to see how enumeration works. Let me show you one more way to enumerate, though, because I can say for, let's say, x comma y in enumerate in. I'll print X and then I'll print Y, and you can see what happens is the X becomes the index, the Y becomes that value there. Allows me to separate the two and use them as I see fit, which is exactly what I need to do. So I'm going to say for Y, comma row in enumerate wall.txt. Now, at this point, we're done reading the file. All the reading file occurred here. And we could actually close that file because we're done with it. And then I'll just say end file read. And now I'm just dealing with the wall text that I made. So for y comma row. So y will be the row number, which is going to be our y coordinate, and row will be the string that we read in from our map.txt. So this would be row 0, and then the element at row 0, the row would be that long string of things. Well, it turns out that I can enumerate a string as well. So let's just say I had a string, hello world. Well, I can say let's just say for K in enumerate S, you could see I can enumerate a string. I can enumerate anything that's iterable. So I will enumerate this string. Now, what index in the string you're at is actually going to be my x coordinate. So I'm going to say for x in, and we're going to a specific tile right now that we're talking about. So I'll use the variable tile. These x comma tile, I could use, I could use car comma teddy bear, but those aren't good variable names. I'm using variable names that represent what they are, but I do want you to understand these are my choice in variable names here. They're local. You can see that because of the italicized. So for x, y in enumerate row, we're enumerating the row that we got in the previous enumeration. And if the tile is a 1, remember it'll be a string, everything in the file is read in as a string, then we need to create a wall here. So I'll say sprites.wall. Remember, we got to send it a copy of our game, so self. And I want to put it at the XY position. So notice whatever I read in is always going to be a string, but the enumeration will always be an int, so this is perfect for us. Elif, there's one other thing it might be. If the tile reads a capital P, that's our player. So we're going to make self.player appear there. And I think that means I really need to eliminate my player here. So I've got load walls, which is also loading our player. Let me make a note of that. Okay. And hopefully this works pretty well. We might have some little bugs. Let's take a look. All right, seem to run without incident here. I don't like the positioning of that wall. I could have done something more symmetric. Maybe you don't want it symmetric, but this looks good to me. Aside from the fact that I needed to change my title to lesson 5, this looks good to me. I'm able to run inside different things. I can go to a corner, really getting a nice game going here. You know, I think you could already imagine what we might be able to use this for. So this is going to be a good thing to have in your game making repertoire. And I think this is a good place to stop. You know, this is going to give you a chance to really play around with different map making things, make some really cool stuff, see what you can do, and have fun with it.